Hello all. This video is to outline what we mean when we say we're going to do weeding at Frick Park. We don't pick weeds one by one, as you might think from that title. This is more of a mass production project using tools. So let's get into it and see how it's done. The equipment that you'll need will generally be found in one of four spots. The first spot is the umpire chairs between Court 1 and Court 2. The second spot would be on the concrete slab at the end of Court 1, where you'll see the stands and canopy. The third spot would be by Vincente the Wonder Roller, in that kind of pile of stuff there. And the last and least likely place would be in the green cabinet at the end of Court 1. Not likely to be there, but it could be. Please be aware that the courts always need weeding, especially around the fringes. So if you find yourself with some time and you want to do something, you don't necessarily have to coordinate with anyone. You can just come down and do this, particularly the first phase where you go and take the weeds up. You don't have to sort or sift, as long as the piles, which you'll see what that's all about later, are left in a good spot. No one will trip on them. The first thing you'll need is a pair of gloves. We have a couple pairs at the courts, but it's probably just better to bring your own, or if you make arrangements, I can leave a pair there. Always do this work with gloves on, because you never know what's in the clay. The second thing you'll need is this sort of strange looking weeding contraption, which is what looks like a blade, a blunt blade, metal blade, affixed to the end of a long wooden pole. We have a couple of these. These are called weeding hoes, and I'll show you how to use those during the coming video. The last piece of equipment that you'll need is a rake. We got lots of these things floating around. You just have to find one and then just use it as needed. So here's the first part of the weeding process. See, I've got my gloves on, right? And then what you do is you basically drag the flat edge of the weeding hoe across the dirt, back and forth, which pulls up the weeds and also their roots if they're shallow enough. Don't be afraid to dig into the clay. We're going to reclaim that material later. This as long as you're not on the court. If you're between the courts, then there's really no problem with digging as deep as you need to into the dirt. And you just go back and forth until you get a reasonably sized area worked on, and then you proceed to the second part. So here's the second part of the operation. We go grab the rake and come over into the frame. See, I got my gloves on again. And basically take anything that's loose that you got loose, that's dirt, clay, anything, and the vegetation, and sweep it up into a pile. You may have to come back and do this a second time, but for the first time, you just kind of put it all together and leave it into a pile, where it can be processed later. The second phase of the operation is to take the piles that you've generated and sift out the material that you don't want and leave the good material in a wheelbarrow. Now, what we would normally do, or what I would normally do, is when I'm finished, I would take this stuff in the wheelbarrow and I would bag it so it stays dry. If you don't have the materials and you don't have the bag or whatever, when you're done, just dump the wheelbarrow into a spot. We'll know where it is, and we'll just pick it up from there. You'll remove most of the junk, and we'll be able to pretty easily process what's left. The first thing you'll need is a wheelbarrow. This one has some stuff in it, but generally when you're doing it, you should try to find an empty one. The second thing you'll need is a sifting kit. That's in two parts. The first part is a kind of a green screen with a wire mesh on it, about an 1/8 inch, and you'll use that over top of the wheelbarrow, as I'll show you in just a second. The second part is either a wooden or metal support that you can use across the wheelbarrow to help hold the thing together. You can even use a court broom if necessary. And the last thing you'll need is something to hold the discards. You could use a bucket, or you can use a second wheelbarrow. That's kind of up to you. So here we're going to go through the basic sifting process. We have a wheelbarrow full of some material that's been pre-sifted, and we're going to add to it. I'm going to come over. I'm going to put the two supports. And this could be a single wooden board. It could be anything. These just happen to be around and useful. Put them across, and then put the rest of the sifting kit on top. Then I'm going to grab a shovel, and I'm going to grab a shovel full of material in that pile with my gloves on. Thank you very much. Always use your gloves. Then we'll go and we'll grab a shovel full of material, put it on the sifting kit. Sometimes you can grab out the big obvious material and put it right in the refuse pot or barrow, whichever it is, and you can see that stuff isn't going to go back on the court. And then run your fingers through the material. It will fall through. It's kind of like magic. Some of the pieces, even though they don't go through, are actually clay. You can grind them down with your hand if you need to. Most of this looks like junk to me. So, and then what I'll do is I'll just take that off. I'll fold the sift kit a little bit, and then just shake everything into the Home Depot bucket. And that's that. Okay, here we'll do another load, and you'll see I put the material on there, and I go through and pick out the big obvious stuff that isn't going to go through, the big weeds. Just kind of pick them off and shake them out, and that leaves the loose soil. And then you can just kind of, again, use your hands with the gloves on and work all that through. The smaller stuff falls through, the bigger stuff. Then you turn around, hold, and drop. Just like that. Here is a slightly better view of me emptying the sift kit. You can see what I'm doing, just very gently shaking everything out. You don't have to go crazy. It'll all fall out by itself, and that's. Now, in an ideal world, what I would do is once that wheelbarrow was full, I would package the material inside of a bag so it doesn't get wet. There's another video on how to do that, so I'm not going to go through that here. If you're just coming down to help on a random day and you got an hour and you'd want to do kind of a little bit of exercise that helps us out, you can do the part with the weeding hoe and the rake and just leave the piles. We'll know what they are in text, either myself or John. We'll know what they are, and we can do the sifting part and put the material away. Now, there are been alternate ways of doing weeding that have been proposed. This method has a couple of advantages. The first is, while we do this, as you know, we're tearing up a fair amount of clay off the court, which is a good thing because we're going to recycle that stuff and we're going to put it back on the court. So not only does this weeding technique remove weeds, but it generates material that we can use to top the courts with. And the second thing is that it does help draw our volunteers together. Everybody can do a little bit, and it feels like you have made a contribution, and you have made a contribution to keeping the courts up and running. So when you hear weeding at Frick, this is what you should be thinking of. So hopefully we'll see you out there. Thanks. Bye.